This meeting is being recorded.
Okay, welcome everybody. Well, it's a beautiful day in Chicago today, and the Olympics are going on, and our attendance is way down, but we should have some more people hopping on before long, so that will be good. So we'll take a brief moment to do a brief meditation. So if you have things on your lap, you might want to put them down and get yourself in a relaxed position. Maybe close your eyes gently and allow yourself to go where you go when you go. Welcome back. Always hard to come back. So we just have a brief message, and that is that um, our speaker next month will be Denise Lynn, who was a near-death experiencer who's become a well-known spiritual teacher. She has a large slew of books, and she does a lot of speaking and teaching. And I'm sure you'll enjoy her very much. And I hope that you will tune in for that next month. And also want to mention quickly that if you can donate $20 or 10 or more, whatever your fair share is, that would be wonderful uh, to help us pay our expenses. And a lot of you know we have had a number of people who attend who've lost children, and it's always been a very difficult thing for people. And somehow the message that we teach and the lessons that we learn by listening to people who've died and come back are very comforting to people, not just people who've lost children, but to all people, because I think what I've learned more than anything after doing this meeting for 26 years every month is that we don't die. Nobody dies. The body dies, but the essence of who we are, you die, and the next day you feel exactly the same as the day before when you weren't dead. You just don't have a body anymore. And this message is very profound and very helpful. And I learned early on um, that it's particularly helpful. I don't think there's any pain as raw as the pain from losing a child. Um, there's something special about that that makes it very, very difficult to deal with. And people would walk into our meeting the first time barely being able to walk in. And I noticed after a few years of doing this that after they came to meetings for a while, they would come up to me and say, I don't know how we would have ever made it through without this meeting. And it just, it helped. I mean, it was an amazing blessing to me. I couldn't express how grateful I am. I can't do it today, how grateful I am to do the work that I've done and I do still to today at the age of 81. It just gets a little slower when you get older, but it's still the same and it's still enormously beneficial. And I was just so happy when I came across Andrea. I think it was May, wasn't it, when we first talked, and heard her story and uh, got her book. And uh, it's a wonderful story, Andrea, and the work you're doing is so, so important and so valuable. And the work that Chloe's doing with you, because I know she's still active with you. And at any rate, I'm going to turn it over to her and let her tell you all about her and her daughter and her family. And if you have questions, you can put them in the chat box. You can ask questions at any time during the lecture, but put them in the chat box, and um, and we'll answer them as we can as we go along. So welcome, Andrea. I'm so glad to have you here.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you for having me. I just want to make sure that everybody can hear me. Okay? Yes?
Mm.
Okay. Okay, good. Hi, everybody. It's an honor to be here with you. And yeah, it's amazing how Miss Chloe, my daughter Chloe, basically there was life before she passed and life after. And so many things contributed to help me really have a deep level of conversation and complicity with Chloe after she passed. And what started it all was the near death experience, without a doubt. And this happened many years ago. It was 1991. So that's a good place to start. And I was 31. And I'd like to tell you a little bit about that near death experience. But the real meat of it and the juice of it is what happened after. It's all of the faculties that were developed slowly and patiently by this amazing team that was around me and let me know that they were around me. And they had a lot of patience with me because I had a lot of doubt and I would question it and I would wonder. And I had such incredible phenomenon happening that I didn't understand. And yet they would put the people in front of me or the book in front of me, or somehow I would just gather up the information. And I grew little by little. And that sort of culminated all those years later when Chloe did pass, and then we began this amazing conversation together. So I'll tell you about the NDE. It was December 1991, and I woke up very early in the morning and I had a vision. And you know it's not a dream when you wake up and remember the whole thing. You remember every detail of it, even to the point of saying, gee, what a weird vision that was. Because in the vision, I saw my husband and I walking down a sidewalk, and there was a huge snowstorm. I saw that it was night. I saw a car, And I remember the car perfectly. It was a navy blue Honda Accord. And I saw this car come down the street, jump the sidewalk, and hit us from behind. I heard, now this is all in the vision at like 7 o'clock in the morning, I heard my husband scream, and I heard the words that he said. And then I kind of got up and I said, okay, that's really weird. That particular day was the day of my grandmother's funeral. So it's quite amazing because my grandmother also played a large part in my evolution afterwards. And this was something too I had no idea was even possible, but I'll get to that a little later. So that night we're leaving a house. It's 10 past 10. There are cars parked everywhere. There's a huge snowstorm. And as we walk down the sidewalk, I don't see it because it's coming from behind, but this car loses control, jumps the sidewalk just in the perfect spot because there were cars parked everywhere else, hits us from behind. And then I hear my husband scream. And that was the moment I thought, oh, I've been warned. I've been prepared. I'm going to be okay. Just go with it. And I flew through the air. He went over the car, hit the windshield, into the snowbank, and I went down the boulevard. And I wasn't hit by any other cars. And then I had on this amazing coat, by the way. My grandmother had always said every woman should have a red coat. And I had a red coat on that night, and it was a big, heavy red coat. And as I came out of my body and I looked down at the road, there was an incredible amount of chaos because there were cars stopped everywhere. There were people streaming out of the house I was in that we were attending as reception. Everybody was screaming, but all I could do was kind of float above the scene. I was maybe 6 or 7 feet above the scene, and I saw this red coat. I said, wait a minute, that's my red coat. And then I just kept going up, and then I saw all the chaos around me, and I tried to tell them, I'm okay, go back in the house. Nobody had put their coats on. All the women were out in the storm, and nobody heard me. Nobody heard me. I tried to talk to my husband. I tried to talk to that poor woman who had been driving the car. And you know, to this day, I have never met this woman, and I have never been able to tell her I'm okay. I always wanted to tell her that. And every time I share the story of this accident, I think, gee, I hope she's going to see it, because it's something to hit a couple and knowing that there are babies and young children involved, and you know, all of that goes with it. And I would like her to heal her heart. So all this chaos is going on around me, and I just lift and leave it all behind, and none of it matters anymore, and I'm not in any pain at all, no pain. And I basically, our OBEs usually a part of NDEs, out of body experience, part of near-death experience. Yes, absolutely. There was no question I was out of my body. I was completely out of my body. In fact, the cool thing was I was totally still me. I had all my thoughts, my emotions, my feelings. I knew exactly where I was. I knew exactly the house we'd come out of. I remembered the vision that I'd had that morning. So I left my body. I went up into this beautiful space, and then, yes, as you've heard, I know it's almost a cliche, but I was surrounded, and I was enveloped in love and in this soft yellow light, and it just carried me. And I had no review or anything like that, but I was just carried until I stopped, and there was a figure in front of me, and I didn't know if it was male or female. It felt like it was about 9 feet tall. And because of, you know, my background and my beliefs, I thought, oh gee, I thought it was Jesus. And it felt male to me, but I never saw a face. But it was very loving, and it was kind, and he kind of gave me a moment to sort of figure out where I was. And then he addressed me by name. He said, Andrea. And I was like, you know my name. And I still have cause to stop sometimes and think about that. You know, when you think you're so small and that that your name isn't warranted being said in heaven, kind of thing. He knew my name. And he said, Andrea, do you want to stay or do you want to go? And I had 3 little children. I had a 1, a 3, and a 5-year-old at the time. And I said, even if every bone is broken, I said, I must go back. I have to go back. And then he said, he sort of stopped and he asked me again, do you want to stay or do you want to go? And I said, absolutely, I want to go back. Those children need me. And I was thrown into some kind of a vortex. Now, I didn't have actual hands and feet, but I definitely had astral hands and feet because I was using them. And I was in this thing and it was spinning so fast. And I had my hands up and I had my feet. And I thought, you better hold on, girl, because if you don't, you're going to get thrown somewhere. And I didn't know where that was going to be. So I held on for dear life. And it spun and it spun and it spun and it gathered up speed and gathered up speed. And then it slammed me back into my body. And I woke up. And there I was. I had been moved to the sidewalk. The ambulance was there. The technicians were trying to load us onto stretchers, and it was complete chaos and pandemonium. But I was fine. I knew that whatever I had lived, I was supposed to live. And the first thought that entered my head, you know, they put the neck brace on you and the whole thing, and they think maybe every bone is broken, but I actually, believe it or not, I did not break one bone. I had a run in my pantyhose, and my red coat was completely full of glass. That coat was like a coat of armor. It protected me. It was unbelievable. I mean, after that night, I had to throw the coat away. There was no way I could ever wear that coat again, but it was full of embedded glass. So I'm being loaded into the ambulance, and I remember looking over at my husband thinking, okay, you know what? Something has gone to a lot of trouble to save me, and I am not going to waste one more day in an unloving relationship. And right then and there, I said, okay, this marriage is over. And it took me 2 weeks to screw up the courage, and then I finally asked him to leave. And he did. He did because there were some very good reasons that this was not a healthy marriage. He just never should have been married. It was not, just wasn't the right thing for this gentleman. So there I was with 3 little kids alone. And the first thing that happens is my grandmother, who had had her funeral on the day of the accident, comes to me. And then I start talking like her. And I start eating like her. Now, she had been a widow alone for many, many years and had the worst table manners. I started having the worst table manners. I started burping like my grandmother would make these big burps. I started burping like my grandmother. I started eating like my grandmother. She always ate like with her hands. I could feel that my grandmother was with me. And I didn't know what to make of that. Finally, one day I said, Grandma, you got to help me. I don't really understand what's going on. And I was basically directed into a bookstore to a section, pulled out a book, and I opened it up, and there it was, all this paragraph after paragraph about walk-ins. I didn't know what a walk-in was. I'd never heard of walk-ins. And then she said, yes, Andrea. She said, I've got unfinished business, and we are going to work together. She said, but first, I have to teach you. And I said, oh boy. She says, you're going to learn patience, you're going to learn tolerance, you're going to learn forgiveness, you're going to learn all these major attributes. And the first thing I want you to do, she said, is go get my books. And I said, well, what books are those? And And you know, I heard her clear as day. That was what was so cool. I could hear her clear as day. She said, they're in a basement, in a box, and the books are the life and teachings of the masters of the universe. And I had known those books because when she was ill, she passed at 92, but I used to read from her books to her. Did you want to ask me something, Diane?
No.
No? Okay. So I got the books. I tried to read them, and they made no sense to me. I put them away. I said, Grandma, I'm sorry. I am not ready for this. And I learned a good lesson there too, you know. You have to be, you can only be who you are. You can't pull anybody along if they're not ready to follow. You just can't. So my grandmother started teaching me and teaching me. And a few years later, after that, she said, go get this picture, go make a logo, we're going into business. I'm like, what? Now, I'm a single mother with 3 children, and I have child support from my ex-husband who is working, and my grandmother had bigger vision, wider vision than I had. And she knew things I didn't know. She knew that my ex-husband's business wasn't going to work and that he would declare bankruptcy and leave me with no child support. But before all that happened, she said, go make a logo. I said, well, what kind of logo? What are we going to do? She said, now I had a cereal that I used to make. My mother made it, my grandmother made it, and it was a granola cereal, and it was really the most amazing cereal. And she said, we're going to make granola. I'm like, what? She said, yeah, we're going to make granola. You are going to be a granola queen, and we are going to make granola. And I was like, okay, what am I going to call the company? Now, my grandmother's name is Emily. I always talk about everybody in the present tense because they're all right here. She said, we're going to call it Grandma Emily's Granola. I said, oh, okay. So I made a logo. I took $250 very hard-earned dollars, made a logo, and then I didn't know what to do. So my poor grandmother had to work really, really hard to get me going, to get the business started. She made all these amazing things happen, all these beautiful coincidences, so that I did finally start a granola company. And I started it at home, and I worked really, really, really hard. And every Friday, I moved finally, and I had a commercial kitchen. My grandmother would come, and she would walk around the factory with me. It was the most amazing thing. And she said to me, you know, Andrea, I always wanted to be a woman in business, but you know, born in 1899, like it just wasn't in the cards for her. But she said, I always wanted to be in business. And she used to applaud me when I did something good, and she would give me heck when I did something not good. Like, she was a tough taskmaster. And the funny thing is, the years went by, I started teaching entrepreneurship because everybody thought, wow, this woman is the most amazing entrepreneur. She started a business from nothing in her kitchen with no money, no bank. No bank would give me a penny. I bootstrapped the business, which means you pick yourself up by the boots and you just go. And every time you make a sale, you save your money and you save your money, and then you buy another piece of equipment, and that's it. That's what bootstrapping is. But nobody realized that I had this incredible partner who kept pushing me. And it was fun. And it was hard too, because I didn't know how to run a food business. I had no idea how to run a food business. And fast forward. So imagine now, I start in my house. I start making granola in my little oven. I move once, I move twice, I move 3 times. I am now selling granola all across the country. I have a magnificent facility. I have 16 employees. Work all the time. I'm exhausted. Of course I'm exhausted. Raised 3 kids. At least they had granola to eat. They often didn't have much else, but they always had granola. And so finally I say, you know, Grandma, no, actually that's not true. No, it was several years before I sold the business that I had a very minor surgery. This was fascinating. Very minor, but it was general anesthetic. Yeah. And when I woke up, I was different. She was gone. And I was like, whoa, what happened? Grandma, where did you go? She says, you don't need me anymore. And I said, well, where are you going? And she said, I'm going to the Omega. Isn't that cool? I'm going to the Omega. And I didn't even know what that meant, but I Googled it and it meant, going to the end. I said, I'm going to the Omega. So 2015 comes around and I'm exhausted and I say, okay, I always use spirit for everything. If I needed to hire a production manager, I would talk to my invisible team at night. I'd say, find me a manager. If I had a piece of equipment that broke down, like what did I know about pneumatics and ovens and granola bar wrappers and all this? This was all completely unknown to me. So I use my unseen team all the time. And they always tell me, we don't use that team enough. They're bored. And they're such an amazing, because they have every capacity on every subject, night or day. Like I was so busy that I had to work even while I was sleeping because I didn't have enough hours in a day. So 2015 rolls around and I'm like, okay, that's it. I'm exhausted. Find me a buyer. And they did. They found me a buyer. And I sold the company. And then I was gone. I put a knapsack on my back and I said, Yahoo, I'm going to be free. And I went, where do you go? I went to Italy. And I was having a blast with a little knapsack on my back, something I had never, ever done. And it lasted 1 month. And I'm in Italy and I get a phone call. It's 2015 and it's like just before Mother's Day. And it's like, Andrea, you have to come home. Chloe is sick. And that was that. And I was so grateful that I had sold the business. Okay, I had 1 month off. I sold the business and now my next job was waiting for me. And that was to take care of Miss Chloe. So Chloe's my second child. And we spent about, 8 months together. And Chloe passed in February 2016. And, the key in life to me is to turn your suffering into service. It's that simple. It really is. And initially you're just suffering. But eventually you say, okay, what can I do to honor you today, Chloe? What can I do? And the answers come. So Miss Chloe passes and I just feel I cannot stay in the house where I took care of her for the last 10 months. I just needed a break. And so I find this lovely little cottage on the waterfront, 400 square feet, 1 room. Now I finally, believe it or not, with my business, I managed to buy a townhouse, pay off the mortgage, have no debt when I sold my business. So I was living in my parents' house with Chloe for the last year of her life because we were up on the lake and it was really beautiful for her. And then after she passed, I said, no, I need to be somewhere else, just for a month even. And I rented this little cottage by the lake. I get into this little cottage and I'm in there for just a few weeks. And all of a sudden, I'm writing her a letter. I say, hi, Chloe, you would love this place. 2 of everything. It's like Noah's Ark in here. 2 plates, 2 cups, 2 dishes. It's 400 square feet. I raised you guys in a 3-story townhouse, but nothing beats this 400 square feet. I have never been happier. I'm surrounded by beauty and peace. And I get up with this little handwritten letter and I have this lovely little wood stove. And I get up and I'm going to burn the letter in the stove. And she says, Mom, don't burn that letter. And then she said, you know what her first words were to me? She said, Mom, you are so easy to find, it's a joke. I said, what do you mean? She said, you're light. You're light. She said, when you pray, we see your light. Isn't that cool? We see your light. Like, I always thought that that was true, but I didn't know that that was true. So she said, get your computer. We're going to write a book. And I'm like, oh, no, no, no. So what I used to do in this little 400 square foot place, she would wake me up at about 4 o'clock in the morning, and I'd say, I don't want to write a book. I love this conversation. I just want to do this. Why should I write a book? At this point, I'm teaching entrepreneurship in a university. I'm super well respected. I've won awards for entrepreneurship. It's like, I don't want to write a book. I just want to talk with you. And she's like, no, no, no. I didn't come all this way and do all this just for you to cop out on me now. We had a little spat. And the cool thing was, there's so many things about it that are cool. So you see, the NDE was a pivotal moment because it opened up all these faculties. But it's how they were used and developed afterwards. That's really the cool thing. It's the life that we lead every day, right? And how we turn that suffering into service. That's really what this is all about. So she would wake me up at 4 a.m. And she had this really annoying habit when she was alive. She used to dig her chin into my shoulder. And that hurts. Like, if you ever have somebody do that to you, it's like, ow, stop. That's what she used to do. And it's funny how I knew right away it was her because she used to do that. And the cool thing was, I would be able to open my computer, which is the exact computer I'm talking to you on right now, close my eyes, and take dictation from Miss Chloe. And when she spoke and I typed her words, I never made a spelling mistake. Not a spelling mistake. But when I spoke my words, there were tons of mistakes. I mean, you can't send a text without making 10 mistakes. So it was a 5-month conversation, and I did publish the book. I self-published the book, and it's called Conversations with Chloe. And it's really a cool thing because it gets into the hands of the right people. Now, I have never really wanted to market it. It's funny because when I had my business, I was a marketing maniac. Every day I would sit on my computer and say, okay, what do I do today to market Grandma Emily's granola? But when it came to my book, it's like I didn't want to function that way. It was just a gift. It was love. It was for Chloe. And I just felt that Spirit would bring people to me who needed to read this book. So you know what I did? I started putting it in those books, you know, those little book nooks that are around, like on street corners and in parks and that. And people send me emails. I just got one yesterday from a woman who said, I can't believe it. I picked up that book and it's really helping me. And all different messages I get from people. So this is the book. I'll show you. And then Diane has a copy. And I have sent Diane a PDF of the book. There you go. And this is Miss Chloe. And it's really amazing. I mean, it's special. Yeah, it really is. And she told me, she said, Ma, you're going to see the words themselves are so powerful. People are going to be really blown away by this book. And funny thing happened. Thank you. I thought everybody would love this book. I thought it was going to sell like crazy. I was going to do huge book club things. And wrong. It was the exact opposite. Nobody believed. They didn't believe that I really had this conversation with Chloe. It wasn't until I met a group called Helping Parents Heal. And I started working with them because I do sound healing. And I started doing sound healing with them. And I found out all these other parents who've written books with their kids. And I'm like, so there you go. It's a lot more common than you know. But there's something I want to share with you from this book because it's really, I mean, there's so much in here, so much. But at one point I said, okay, Chloe, it's really cool that we can do this, but I want to help other people do this. I want to help other people connect with their loved ones, because we're always talking to them all day long. I mean, who doesn't talk to our loved ones across the veil, right? So she said, okay, I'm going to give you the 12 steps to bridging. So you have the book, Diane. You probably aren't there yet, but it starts on page 134. And this is what she said to me. And it was tough. Ooh, she started off really tough. Like the toughest words were the first ones. She said, I'm going to give you 12 steps, and you can do them in any order you want, except for the first step. I'm like, oh no, what's that? And this is the way we would talk, by the way, just completely, same as we always talked. There was no difference in her tone, in my tone. It was just, actually, it was way better than the way we used to talk. It was way better. Yeah. So she said, only the first step has to be first. I said, okay, what is it? And she said, the first step is, all is as it should be. I'm like, whoa. You want a parent to believe that all is as it should be when you have a child in spirit and you're grieving, and you want them to accept to the point where they are going to realize that all is as it should be? So this is what she said. I'm not going to read them all, but I'm going to read you number 1. Fundamental to this initiative is the understanding that all is as it should be with the world. There will be much evidence to contradict that statement. Ignore it. This is the toughest step. It's called acceptance. Imagine asking a parent to accept. All is as it should be. This applies to all things in life and death. Not only are there no mistakes in life, just lessons, but there are no errors in death. Every life is appropriate and of the correct length. This fundamental knowing may be the subject of study during multiple lifetimes, or it may be known instantly. It requires the full acceptance of death as a part of life. Oh. And then she goes on to say other stuff that we would expect, like breath work, like meditate, like write it down, like raise your vibration, all those things. So, all is as it should be. I want to share with you a couple of crazy signs. Now, I've had many signs, and Sarah was sharing a sign before from her good friend. You asked for the lights to flicker, and boom, she flickered the lights right away. I can tell you, they love it when we ask them for signs. You think, oh, maybe I'm bothering them, maybe they're busy, maybe they don't want it. No. They love it. They love it, and they learn how to communicate basically across the veil. So, the first sign I'm going to share with you happened 2 years ago. And I was at the Helping Parents Heal conference in Phoenix. Now, I do sound healing, and that was Chloe's prompting too, because I always attended a group and meditated with sound. But she's like, Mom, you got to get out there and share this with people because it's so healing. So I started something called a sound lounge. And at the Phoenix conference, now this year the IANDS conference is at the same place, the Sheraton Wild Horse Pass. I'm not going to be at the IANDS conference, but I am going to be at the Helping Parents Heal conference, which ends just a few days before. And I do a sound lounge in the room where they have the huge screen on the wall, and they have a PowerPoint. And this PowerPoint is really something. It's like 1,000 pictures, all our kids in spirit scrolling through with music, and it's really beautiful. So I get into this room, start setting up my equipment, and all their equipment malfunctions, stops working, everything freezes. So I say to the organizer, I say, no problem, give me the sound, give me the PowerPoint, give me everything, I'll put it on my computer. Next morning, we're starting up again for the second day. It worked perfectly the first day. And all of a sudden, everything stops working again. And I'm like, oh no, what am I going to do? Remember, 1,000 pictures in that PowerPoint. And I look up at the screen, and guess whose picture is up on the screen? Miss Chloe. And other people were in the room, and they're like, whoa, isn't that Chloe? And I'm like, Chloe, how did you do that? And you know what her answer was? She didn't tell me how she did it. She said, Mom, you make it so easy. And I said, what do you mean? She said, you don't doubt. You don't doubt. And then she proceeded to kind of take me by the shoulder and pull me down the hallway to go and sit in front of this family that I did not know. And there were very few families actually at this conference. There's mostly moms and some dads. And she made me say what just happened to this whole family, and there were 2 other teenage kids in this family. And then I told them the whole story, and I told them how the equipment malfunctioned, and there was Chloe on the screen, and she told me, Mom, you don't doubt. And then I felt really stupid. I'm like, okay, sorry, see you later. And I left. I never talked to them, nothing. I just basically blurted this whole thing out. 4 o'clock that afternoon, I'm in my sound lounge, and this family comes in the room. You know, every time I tell this story, it's so powerful because it's just on so many levels. So this young boy, maybe he was 12 or 13, I go up to them, right? Because I'm feeling like maybe I should apologize, or, you don't know me from anything. And he speaks to me and he says, thank you so much. He said, you changed everything for me. He said that because this happened like at 8:30 in the morning. So he said, I had the whole day hearing all these mediums and going to all these different meetings. And because I started telling myself, don't doubt, he said, it just changed everything. And I really believe now. I said, oh, you did good work, Chloe. You did good work. So that was one time. Another time, yeah, that was cool. That was cool. Yeah. I mean, there's so many great moments, but it's like you don't need them after a while. I have to tell you one thing too. My grandmother came to me one day and said, okay, I'm not going to talk with you anymore right now. I'm like, why? She said, because like she had left for many years. I sold the business and she had left. She said, I want you to hear Chloe really, really clearly. And if I get too much in there with her, you're going to get all mumble jumbled. So I said, oh, okay, I appreciate it. So I want to tell you another lovely sign. Would you like to hear that? Yeah? Is that okay? Okay. So even with all the conversations and even with everything, one year on the anniversary, on the anniversary of their death and their birth, those are big days. Like those are really big days. Like the veil is so thin. It's crazy. Write them a letter and they will write you back. Talk, ask, set an appointment. I'll meet you on that bench at 10 a.m. Meet me tomorrow on that bench, 10 a.m. I'm telling you, they will be on that bench at 10 a.m. I have done that so many times with her. But this time, I wanted to sort of have a treat. So I decided to just have a reading with a medium. And this medium was amazing. And during this reading, of course, Chloe and I are chatting away. And then she says, Mom, I want to thank, and she starts naming all these women. And when you do a reading, you got to have a paper and a pen, right? Or record it or something, because there's no way you remember everything. Your brain just starts going, it's so incredible that you just can't remember everything. So I had a paper. I start writing down all these names of all these women. And I'm like, okay, I don't know who this is, but that's cool. A couple of days later, Elizabeth, who is the co-founder of Helping Parents Heal, says, oh, Andrea, it's Chloe's anniversary. Would you like to put some kind of a tribute on the Facebook page. She knows I'm a writer. I said, oh, yes, Elizabeth, I would love to. So I write a piece and she posts it on Facebook. And then I look about a day later, I see the piece on Facebook, and then I look at the comments. You know, all those women that Chloe thanked 2 days before, those were all the names of the women who had made comments after my Facebook post. I hadn't even written the post. I hadn't even been asked by Elizabeth to write the post. And Chloe had thanked them. Isn't that crazy? I know. So everything is possible. As far as I'm concerned, if somebody says, you know, I've got a terminal illness, I say, maybe. You know, if somebody says this is a hopeless case, I say, maybe. And maybe not. And maybe not. Everything is possible. Yeah. So I'm going to just take a little sip of water, and maybe somebody wants to ask a question, or it's 3:48, and or for you it's 2:48. Anybody want to ask a question? Tell us about sound. Oh, sure. So after my near-death experience, and I didn't break a bone, but I was bashed up really bad. Like, my body was a wreck. And see, there's even in that, there's always a silver lining in everything. I had a 1-year-old, right? Remember that? I had a 1-year-old. I could not pick him up. I could not, he's 34 now. I could not carry him after that for like a year because my body was so bruised and so black and blue. So I used to put him in a bundle buggy, which is it's like a knapsack that you wear on the front. So that child never went in a stroller. He was always snuggled up against me, right? And to this day, he still loves to snuggle. He always loves to snuggle. But my body was really a wreck. And so I sort of got the message, Andrea, you need to do Reiki. You need to go start yoga. You need to do massage. You need to start now, get the tools. Start with all these tools. And I got the name of a lady for Reiki, and it took me months before I could get her on the phone. And when I finally got her on the phone, she said, oh, come and see me today. And I go to her office expecting a beautiful Reiki session. She says, I'm sorry, we can't do Reiki today because it's being painted. Let's go have a coffee. And this woman became my mentor for sound healing. And we started meditating together in 1992, and we still meditate together today. We now she's gone 6 months of the year and all that because the weather here is crummy in the winter. But she's the one who introduced me to sound. And we used to meditate in silence. It was hard to meditate in silence. And when the first crystal bowl came along, I realized, wow, we are vibrational beings. We are vibrational beings. Every cell in our bodies vibrates. And we have actually, I've been through the cancer journey too. It's what happened to Chloe. And so what? You have like 50 billion cells in your body, right? So almost every one of those cells is vibrating at its prime resonance, which is the proper resonance for that cell, whether it's a cell or an organ. And then, due to wrong thought, stress, so many reasons, right? Our bodies eventually take on the physical nature of illness. And as much as those cells get sick, they can get well. And so we do a lot of work in sound, working at the level of the DNA. And I do sound all over the place. And that's where the suffering becomes service, because I lost this child. I do a lot of sound for helping parents heal. And I've had the cancer journey, and I do a lot of sound with people who have cancer. And it's amazing some of the results that they receive. And most people don't know anything about the science of sound. And it doesn't matter. They don't have to. Have you ever asked Chloe? Sorry, I just want to see the messages properly. Have you ever asked Chloe how she spends? Oh, yes, on this earth. Your relationship with both her and your grandmother is so beautiful. Thank you for suffering becomes service. Yeah, no, don't thank me. That's not from me. I'm going to tell you, no, suffering, you turned your suffering into service. One thing I could tell you, there's so many things I could tell you. But one thing I could tell you, everything that you think, say, and do is known. Everything. If you did a kind act, if you did a selfish act, if you, whatever it is, everything is known. Isn't that crazy? Everything. So years ago, I was totally upset and in a mess, and I didn't know how I was going to manage my life. And I saw all of a sudden at the end of my bed, Mother Mary. There she was. And you know what she said to me? She said, "Let it be." And then I found out that John Lennon had seen Mary at the end of his bed when he was in a really bad way. And she said to him, "Let it be." And that really like, whoa. So a few days ago, my elder son has some serious challenges, and I was talking to Mary, and there she was. And she's the one who said to me, "Andrea, you have turned your suffering into service." So those are her words. Those are not my words, but boy, I'm so happy to share them with you. Yeah, she told me, "Let it be." Imagine. I know. I just like, it just keeps going. You know, when you don't doubt and you build your faith and you keep asking Spirit to help you. You know, that's how I ran my whole business. I always asked Spirit, I need this. But I got a lot of stuff that I didn't think I needed, you know? Joseph Campbell, I'm sure a lot of you have read Joseph Campbell. And he said, always tell yourself, no matter what happens, this is what I need. This is what I need. And so then you turn every situation into some kind of learning. So, have you ever asked Chloe how she spends her time? Yes, and that's really cool because what they loved when they were here, they still love on the other side. And I've worked with different people on the other side too who come back and talk to their parents and this and that. And it's fascinating to find out how they use the experience here and then they take it to the other side and they develop it even more and they work it even more. In Miss Chloe's case, she loved flowers and flower essences and all that stuff. She used to have all those bottles and everything all around. And so I asked her one day, that's a long time ago though. And I asked her, I said, "Chloe, what are you doing?" Like, And there's a lot of it is in the book too. Like she talks about, what she's doing. And she said, "Mom, I'm in the flower laboratory." I'm like, "No way." She's like, "Yeah, we're developing new combinations of colors and new flowers." And I learned that everything that we see in this 3 dimension is all created beforehand on the other side. Everything is created beforehand over there. There was a young man who when he was alive, he had cystic fibrosis. And he died of cystic fibrosis. And he came to me after he passed, it was quite a few years after, and he said, "I want you to talk to my mom. Tell her," he said, "that I'm a doctor. I have become a doctor. And I am studying cystic fibrosis, and we are coming up with medication to actually mitigate all the symptoms and help people live normal lives." And I kid you not, within 6 months, there was this drug, and I'll never forget it. It's called Kafta, and it's a drug for cystic fibrosis, and apparently it's really groundbreaking. And he was involved in that. I was like, what? So what you love when you're here is what you love and continue to do pretty much on the other side. But everything's open to you. Yeah, everything is open to you. Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's so much. I can't believe you remember Mother Mary. I'm working on a rock opera like Jesus Christ Superstar, but it's about Mary. I didn't know how to start it. One night I had a dream that a big international choir of about 100 people were singing Let It Be. They sang it in many languages and in many styles. There you go. Those are her words. I'm telling you. And you don't need to hear that or see that twice for it to totally change your life. Like when I saw her and she told me that, I calmed right down and I knew things would be okay. Yeah, yeah. So there you go. A rock opera, Let It Be. Yeah, those are Mary's words. That's great. That's totally great. Yeah, there's so many things I could tell you, but I think I've talked enough. I think maybe it's time for other people to unmute and maybe ask a question or whatever you want, or, you know, whatever you like. Yeah, go ahead, Diane.
Would you like to give us a few moments of sound meditation?
Sure. Now, I just want to make sure, I don't have all my instruments out, but I have some, and I want to make sure that you can hear it. So some instruments are constructive, some are deconstructive. So when you hear something like this, so there's harmony and there's flow. And in all the music I do, there's and the sound healing that I create, I always try to have that kind of harmony and flow. I also use music a lot with it. Oh, you know what? Can you make me co-host for a second? I have to play this because of the Mother Mary thing. I got to play this. If you could make me co-host.
Marcia? Marcia's on the controls, and so
Okay. Okay.
she doesn't usually do it. I don't
Oh,
know.
you don't know usually do it? Okay, so the way you make me co-host is you click on participants and then you click on my name, and then you'll see that you have a little drop down menu and you can make, okay, you got it? Because I would like you are co-host now. Thank you very much, Marcia. You did it, girl. It's amazing how, you know. Okay, here we go. So now I'm sharing my computer sound, and I do a lot of sound healing every week. I do a lot on Zoom and I do a lot live. And by the way, on Zoom, everybody is welcome. It's always free. And if you want to join me, you can just, I'm not doing any for August because I'm going to Phoenix and doing the Sound Lounge again. I told Chloe, by the way, I said, Chloe, I want a really cool sign this time. Like, I don't know what you're going to do to top what you did last time, but let's do something really amazing. Anyhow, the point is, hold on. You can marry music and sound. And I need to go get one more bowl. I'll be right back because I didn't know I was going to do this, but especially since Mary is here in the conversation, we have to do this. So, hold on. I'll be right back.
What a blessing. What a blessing. It's wonderful. I love to hear her talk about how she talks to the other side all the time, because that's what I do. All of our speakers are chosen by my guides, And I go someplace, I ask for help on a daily basis, and I have the most wonderful guides, and they are the ones that brought her to us. So I just love to have her talk about that because I don't know how to convince people that this is really a to-do. Welcome back.
So I have, usually I do sound, I'm sitting on the floor. And I sit on the floor because I can put all my stuff around me. I just want to make sure you can hear that.
Yes.
So that everything is a little further away than it usually is. But I'm going to invite you now. I'm going to do a little sound check with the music and make sure that you can hear the music. Can you hear that? Do you hear that? Does anybody hear that? You do. Okay, fine. Okay, so now I'm going to invite you all. Just take a moment. You know, it's a lot of words, right? A lot of, and when I speak about Miss Chloe and all that, it's a lot of energy, and I'm just gonna like, okay, forget all that, and simply we're gonna take a moment and just take conscious breath. Breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth, and just land for a moment. In through the nose, out through the mouth. And we're going to allow ourselves to be filled with the grace of this music and vibration. There we go. At the same time as you have the music and the voice, you'll have a beautiful, harmonious sound bath. Some people, when they come for sound, they have no idea what to expect. None. And they just, oh, thank you. It's certainly not the sound as it would be if we were together in a room. So sometimes it takes them so much by surprise, they burst out crying. And funny things can happen too. You know, when you're in a cancer center, it's tough. People are hurting and suffering. And it's just, but having been there, I can be with them with an open, compassionate heart and no pity. No pity. Same thing for the parents with kids in spirit. One time I was doing sound, and this young mother who had this really tough cancer treatment she was doing, she started to cry. And she cried, and she cried, and she cried the whole hour. I thought, oh my gosh, she's going to be a wreck. She's going to tell me she hated it. I felt so bad. So the session ends, and she says, oh, Andrea, I feel so good. And she says, I'm going to go. And I was waiting to hear her say something like, you know, I'm going to go for a walk in the park or go out in the mountain or something. And she said, I'm going to go to Costco. That was her. She had energy. She was feeling amazing. She had these little kids at home, and she never had the energy to go shopping. And she was going to go shopping for her family. That was, I'll never forget that one. I'm going to Costco. I'm like, what? After all this, you use that great feeling to go to Costco. And for her, that's what mattered, was to go to Costco. So I really appreciated that.
Wonderful.
You know, when you ask people to support you, it's quite amazing what happens. There's a gentleman who runs a site, and it's called sourcevibrations.com. His name is Asa, A-S-A. He composes all this music. There's so much music on his site. It's out of this world. So I contacted him one day, sourcevibrations.com. And I said, Asa, this is me, and this is what I do, and I do a lot of sound, and I don't record a lot of sessions because each session is really unique for the people that I'm with. But Helping Parents Heal does record every session I do, and I do a session every month online. So I said, can I use your music? And, you know, no copyright infringement or anything. And he said, yes. You can use all my music, Andrea. It's all there for you. And I thought, how generous is that? And so I have bought a lot of music from him, but he has generously allowed me to use it and never, you know, pay any kind of fee or anything. Yeah. Yeah.
There's another question here.
Go ahead.
From Rhonda. She said it's so wonderful that you use sound healing. Have you heard about the holy sound of hue?
I have. There's a lot of work with sound in terms of not sounds made by vibrational instruments, but by our own vibrational instrument, which in fact is the most powerful instrument that we all carry. And yes, it could be Om, it could be Aum, it could be Hue, it could even be no sound. It could even be humming. Humming is extremely powerful. I have a piece of music that Asa gave me, and it's a fantastic piece of music to hum to. Now, this piece of music is actually called Red, and so it works with our root chakra. Sometimes I really get into the chakras and do clearing and all of that, and sometimes not. But I would like to introduce you to this music, and I'm gonna mute myself as well, and I invite you. You know what? This piece of music is actually 20 minutes. We'll just do like 2 minutes or something. But I invite you to hum. Hum with this music. It is incredible, the value and the power of your own sound instrument.
Yes.
Okay? So I'm going to mute myself. For whatever reason, I can't seem to get to my, I don't see myself. Let me see. Mute my audio. Okay. So here we go. And I invite you to hum. And this piece of music is called Red. Diane, it would be
Yes.
good too if you mute, okay? If everybody's muted, it will help the quality of the sound.
Okay.
Okay.
Don't hear.
It's just a teeny tiny taste of what it is, what the possibilities are with sound, with your own voice, with your own instrument. It's limitless. Sometimes Spirit tells me we need more sound healers. We need more sound healers. So I do workshops sometimes just to kind of talk more about all the instruments and what I do and about prime resonance and the idea that if we can resonate ourselves at the prime level, then we are in high vibration and in really a great place with our health and our well-being. And if you have blockages and you have pain or you have arthritis or you have sciatica or whatever it is, sound can help because it removes your resistance and it removes the blockage. And if you believe enough and use the breath enough, you can bring in those high vibrations and you can create a prime resonant level for your cells and you will be well. And I have seen it in many cancer patients who suffered so much pain, chronic pain. And sometimes the pain would only go away for the session, and sometimes it would only go like an hour after, and sometimes it would go. Yeah, yeah, yeah. What stories can you share of others being helped? Wow, so many people. You know what? I don't do any of it alone. I can't take any credit for anything. I absolutely cannot take credit for anything. I'll give you an example. I have a friend staying with me right now. In fact, today she's out and about using my car. And I met her because I put my book in a bookcase at the funeral home. And a year after that book had been in that bookcase, she used that funeral home for her mother's funeral. And she was attracted. She looked at that bookcase and said, oh, I need to read that book. There's something about that book. And she bought the book. And then she contacted me. And then Miss Chloe started talking with her too. And said, could you buy this for my mother? Could you get her some roses? Could you do this? Could you do that? And we had the most beautiful confirmation. A couple of years after she had the book, she came to Montreal, which is where I live, and she came for Chloe's birthday. Okay, now Chloe's birthday is November 18th. All right. So November 18th, my friend and I decide to go out for dinner for Chloe. And we try one restaurant and I don't really like it. We try another restaurant, we can't find parking. We try a third restaurant, we get in. And as we walk in the door of this third restaurant, now think about it, all those two other places, all the driving, all the trying to find a spot to park, all of this to walk in the door of the third restaurant, and the waiter comes out of the back with a birthday cake. And everybody in the place is saying happy birthday to you. And we look at each other, and obviously it was somebody's birthday who was in the restaurant, but it was Chloe's birthday. And that was, to me, a most beautiful message that our friendship was meant to be and that we were meant to meet. And yeah, how many people have I helped? I don't even know. You just do the work. You don't worry about the outcome. You just know the outcome is already done anyway. It's already done. Some people will heal. Some people will completely heal. And some people, if they don't change what it was that got them sick in the first place, they won't heal. They'll heal temporarily and then they'll go back to being sick again. That's okay. That's their journey. I just do the work. I just do the work and I don't worry about the outcome. And I know that Spirit will send me the people that need to come. When I rented that little house, that little 400 square foot house, I actually rented it before Chloe passed. I knew she was dying, and I was here for a while before I realized Chloe passed on 2/18, February 18th. And you know what the address is of the house I rented? 218. Whoa, I rented before she passed. And it was the same number, 218. And then I realized, wait a minute, her birthday is November 18th. 1 and 1 is 218. Okay, Chloe. So, I don't know. All I know is I don't doubt anything anymore. I just follow what Spirit asks me to do. I don't always get it right. I don't always hear them perfectly, but I do try and I do ask. And that's what we are all asked to do, is ask. We're all asked. Ask more. Talk more. Engage more. Yes, you are worthy. Yeah. So how many people have I helped? I don't know. But it's a lot of fun. I can tell you that.
Listen and trust. Listen and trust.
Listen and trust. That's right. Listen and trust. Yeah.
Thank you, Greta.
Yeah. So one of the tools that I use, since we have a little bit of time, I had cancer in my throat. And honestly, like after talking for like an hour, I can't talk anymore. It's like I have to stop. So this is called the crystal pendulum. And it's a very high frequency. Do you know that surgery is being done now with sound? There's actually, well, they do ultrasound surgery, but there's also a piece of equipment. It's called the lithotripter machine. And it litho, Litho, Triptor, lithotripter. It is a machine that breaks up stones in the body. So what it does is it works like an opera singer, actually. You know, you've heard of how an opera singer can sing at a particular note and then raise the volume, crank up the volume, turn it so high that the cells explode and the glass, the crystal will explode. Well, that's how the lithotripter machine works. They can determine the exact frequency of the stone, and then they turn up the volume with the beam, and they break up these stones. If you have a moment, which everybody can, check out YouTube, you have to look at the videos of the Chladni plates. It's Chladni, Chladni. So he was basically, his father wanted him to be like an accountant or something. He lived in the 1700s. He didn't want to be an accountant. He wanted to be a musician. And he did accounting till his father died, and then he said, okay, forget that. I'm going to go be a musician. And he experimented with vibration and sound and shape. And he created something called the Chladni plates. And it's actually a plate like a brass, and he put sand, and he used a violin bow. That's how it started, with a bow. And he played on the plate. And as he moved the violin bow back and forth, the sand would move and make all these shapes. And of course, over the years now, people have created very much more sophisticated equipment to do that. But it's a fascinating thing to see how you can, just using sound and vibration, create beautiful shapes with sand, on plates, which is kind of physical proof for people, because people like to have proof. So, I told you about constructing and deconstructing. Well, I did a master's degree, and I was actually down in the southern part of Australia, visiting this incredible shaman down there. The same with water. Yes, the same with water, absolutely. And he taught me a lot about deconstructing using harsh sound, difficult sound, and how there are times when you're doing sound, you do the harmony, you allow the music to fade, you bring in lots of silence, you give people that sense that they're floating and that they're connecting to parts of their mind that they didn't even know they could connect to. But sometimes you have to get tough. And sometimes you have to help people who are hanging on to old stuff. And you can feel it. And you use the deconstructing sounds. They don't always like it. But you're not doing it to be liked. You're doing it to be effective. So we use the rattles. And then sometimes people have worked really hard. Maybe you've worked on your DNA. Maybe we've cleared all the chakras, and who knows what we might have done. Sometimes we take journeys. Sometimes we have the most amazing after death communications. Often, sound opens you up to after death communication. The coolest thing is when people don't expect it, when they don't know it. When the woman whose husband passed 40 years ago, all of a sudden he's there and he's telling her how much he loves her and he's talking about their grandkids or whatever he's talking about. And she's crying. So remember, all is possible. All is possible. You know, there is this amazing little book, and it's called Kinship with All Life. Kinship with All Life. And there's a chapter where he talks about being in total harmony and kinship with a fly. A fly. I tried it. It works. You can be in kinship with all life. How cool is that? So this is, I want to show it to you. This is a chime. And I use this often because people like to go back. They like to go back to when they were 4 or 5, 6 years old. One of the things that are fun to do is to say to that 4-year-old, you're gonna be okay. You're gonna be okay. So when I first tried to navigate the loss of a child, I sort of was looking for books, was looking for something I didn't know. And when I met this group called Helping Parents Heal, and these mothers and their stories and their were so incredible that I asked if I could write a book about them. And they said yes. And so I wrote a second book. And this one is available. Whoever wants it, I'll send you PDF. Hold on. Oh, I made so many mistakes. I made so many mistakes. But one of them is the title. But there's a reason for this title. So the title of the book is Magical Thinking Not. And I'll tell you why. Because one of my good friends, she lost her 3 children in a car accident. And she was followed by a psychologist who would check every year to see if she was still functioning. And she went to the psychologist and she said to him, my kids are with me. I hear them. They talk to me. They guide me. They help me. And so this psychologist wrote a report. And sure, I'll send it to you. Just send me an email and I'll send you the book. So I don't know if I'm going to just find it, but he wrote a report. And in his report, he said, well, she actually seems to be coping quite well. She does say that she hears her children, but we don't really see any other evidence of psychosis or magical thinking. And I was like, excuse me? This isn't magical thinking. And this is where our, there's a long way to go for people to realize. So this is her. This is Jackie with her 3 kids. And this picture was taken like 4 days before the accident happened. What a brave lady. What a brave lady. Yeah. So no matter, yeah. She's special. And she knows that it was not appropriate to try and join them, but that it was part of the journey, and that when the time is right, she will. So this is the second book that I wrote, and there is quite a bit in it about mediumship because it does give people a lot of hope. And here it is: Magical Thinking Not. Bereaved parents share stories of loss, hope, and life after life. And actually, I'm going there tomorrow. So this group meets about 2.5 hours away. And I used to drive there once a month to meet with them. And I'm driving there tomorrow. And we're going to do sound, and we're going to see each other, and it's going to be happy. And this is something, when you attend one of these conferences, it's happy. It's joyful. It's also very sad. But there's a lot of joy, and there's a lot of hope, and a lot of love, and there's a lot of togetherness and feeling that our kids are constantly bringing us together. Yeah. So what I'm going to do, Rhonda sings you. Okay, I get it. What I'm going to do is put my email in the chat so that you can contact me. Okay, Rhonda? And I'll be happy to send you my 2 books. There you go. Okay.
Yay.
Yeah, it's quite the journey. Yeah. So I don't know if you want me to read a little something from my book. I just opened it. I just opened it at a page. So here we go. I don't think any of this is unknown to any of you. You've heard so many near-death experiences. You've probably had your own. Yeah. So this is Chloe's words. We have the long view, Mom. We can see intent, motivation, strength, weakness, love, and hate. If we choose to, we can see all truths from a life. We all can. All these states translate into vibratory colors and frequencies, and they can be seen from this perspective. That's why prayer is so potent and shines such a strong light outwards. Yeah. Like, I have a son who suffers from a mental illness, and so I said, give me a prayer, give me some way to help him. He's been well for so many years, and then he just was sick again. What do I do? And there was a stack of books in front of me, and I said, okay, which one do I pull out? And I was led to The Joy of Living, and I pulled out that book, and then I opened it up, and what's he talking about? He's talking about the brain. And he's talking about how there's a certain particular organ in the brain called the hippocampus, which affects schizophrenia. I'm like, yes, that's what I needed. And then I closed the book and I started to pray. And I just visualized Matthew's hippocampus. There are 2 of them in the brain, one on either side of the brain. And I visualize them, and I send them light, and I send them love. Yeah. Was he going to get better anyway? Hopefully, yeah, but he did. He got better. He's back home. So I'll continue her words. She says, we walk beside you. Oh, yeah, she used to tell me, Mom, if you only knew, you'd be bumping into us all the time. We walk beside you. We hold your hand. We caress your cheeks. We talk to you. We are with you. If our presence could be picked up more easily, oh yeah, more easily by humans, we'd be all banging into each other constantly. Oh, that's how present we are in your life. All should know this. And then she asked me, she says, do you know why I'm doing this? And I say, why? And then she says, she makes a joke. She says, I'm doing it for the money, which of course is like, ha. And then she says, no, Mom, I'm doing it to fulfill my mission that offers a purpose for every suffering I endured. You can take that to your daughter, Marcia. A purpose for every suffering. A purpose for every suffering. Yeah. Yeah. And on it goes. Yeah. There is, okay. Would you like me to read something else from it? Yeah? She says, keep talking to us, keep us alive. Oh, yeah. You know, keep talking about our loved ones on the other side. They love it when we pray and we mention them by name. Oh, my goodness, do they love it. They love to be remembered. They love to be mentioned. This is really cool. Okay. This is on page 78, in case you want to read it. She says, here's a concept you may not have heard before. Take the picture of a saint. Let's say Jesus. The more that you gaze lovingly on his picture, pray to him, speak to him, the more you increase the power of that picture, no matter where it exists on the planet. Is that a concept or what? That representation actually takes on more value as more people adore it. Such is the power of collective thought. It makes sense, really, when you think about it. Such is the power of collective thought. It can also work in reverse, creating havoc and suffering if enough people focus on destructive thoughts. Don't underestimate your thoughts. They create real stuff. They create the collective consciousness that drives events. Yeah. 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 I often, with my friend who was this Reiki teacher who I have meditated with for 32 years, sometimes we do something called like a soul retrieval, and we help people, who have had trouble and haven't crossed over yet. And I remember, because Chloe's talking about pets here, our pets will greet us if that's what we believe will happen. And this man didn't want to cross, and he was angry, and he was really angry, and he didn't believe in anything, and there was nothing I could do. There was no vibration, there was no light, there was no prayer, there was no music, there was no way to console this man. He felt he had had a loveless life, and he did not want to cross over. And I was kind of like, okay, what do I do now, Lord? And then this kind of portal opened up, and this big circle opened up in one corner of my vision, and it became very, very bright. And this huge dog jumped through and jumped like right to his feet, and it was his dog. And he got on the ground and he started crying, and he was patting his dog, and the dog came to get him, and the two of them turned around and went back through that hole into the light. The dog came to get him. Yeah, I kid you not, I saw it with my own vision. Yeah. So our pets can come to greet us. Nobody could take him. There was nobody, he wasn't interested in anybody or anything until he had his dog. Yeah. Yeah. She says, we are shifting towards death as a celebratory event. It won't be that way for everyone, but for more and more it will be. Mark these words. And then she says, St. Augustine is rolling his eyes. It's about time, he says. It's only been 1,600 years since he wrote that the dead are just in the next room. Religious doctrines designed to instill fear and obedience have done much harm, creating a whole pack of untruths about death that disempower and frighten us. And this is changing finally. And she says, we hear you. We hear you when we're in a coma. We hear you after we've passed. We hear you even if you don't think we hear you. We do. We do. And it's true. I can tell you, I've had so many, the night Chloe passed, she came to me and I sat there and I looked at this inanimate body and I thought, it actually really happens. You actually can leave. And she was right beside me and she said, Mom, thank you for being so calm. Thank you because she had asked me to leave the room and I did. I left the room so she could pass. And then she woke me up after she passed and I came back in and sure enough, it was done. And she said, thank you. Thank you for being so calm. And it wasn't easy, but I knew that's what she wanted, you know. So, on that note, I thank you for listening to my story. You're all welcome to join me for sound anytime you want. Remember, there's a time difference. I'm 1 hour ahead. And we'll be back at the end of August. Anybody who wants to join, just send me an email and I will put you on our mailing and send you the links. And we meet twice a week online. And yeah, even though, you could be on the moon and it still feels powerful. So yeah, you think, oh, well, maybe via Zoom it's not so good, but it's actually really good.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes. Thank you, Andrea. My gosh, what a gift you are. What a gift you are, and will continue to be.
Thank you.
A lot of people will benefit from this little 2 hour session we just had in the future by way of the video from this, which should be up within the next couple of days. So I can't thank you enough.
It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. And you know what? It's not just me. It's Miss Chloe too. She actually gave me heck, She said, Mom, you should have put my name on the cover of the book. Like, why did you just put by Andrea Courey? She says, what about me? I said, Chloe, sell 1 million books and I'll put your name, But it's co-written, so I cannot take credit for anything. I am simply just a conduit that believes, and has turned my own suffering into service.
Well, you're a very special team, both of you, and such a gift to the world,
Thank
both
you.
of you.
Thank you.
Thank
you,
you.
everybody. Thank you for
Thank
listening. Hope to see
Thank
you
you
all.
for being absolutely, absolutely.
Bye for now. Does anybody have any
Bye.
other last question or anything, or everything's good? And you can always email me if you want.
We have our email
Oh,
here.
Hanifa wants to say something. Hi. Oh, no? Okay. Whatever you like. Bye for now.
Okay. Goodbye, everybody. We'll see you next month with
Thank you.
Denise.